Okay, perfect. So, first and foremost, we're gonna talk about understanding the fundamentals of cybersecurity right now with Raimundo Rodulfo, here, the Chief Innovation Officer, the city of Coral Gables. So, an honor and a pleasure, Raimundo, for being here. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation. First and foremost, thanks thank you so much for this master class that you gave us in the Rotary of Coral Gables. So please, the audience right here, thumbs up, subscribe to this channel 305 Office. This is a podcast. This is a community growing here in Miami. So thumbs up. That's that way the algorithms show this to other people that may be interested in these topics. So you're making the difference by this thumbs up and going to a friend and share this podcast with a friend. So Raimundo, thank you for being here. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, Simon?
Very good, Raimundo. Also, with this interview, very excited. So, how are how can you tell your beginnings on this field of cybersecurity? How is that, Raimundo?
Well, thank you for having me, Simon. And I'm
You're
sorry I don't
welcome.
see my camera kind of
Okay.
like connecting with the platform. I
Okay.
don't know if you
Okay.
see me, if you see my video there, but that's
Uh,
okay.
okay. Perfect. Okay. So Raimundo. Okay. So we got this. Mhm.
There
Perfect.
we go.
All right. That now we are live. Thank you very much. Now I see you. Now you see me. Thank you very much. So
Thank you.
perfect. So how is that beginning in this field, Raimundo? So Chief Innovation Officer of the city in the city of Coral Gables. Thank you for this master class that you gave us in the Rotary. So please tell us about this how you began in this field and you're welcome to this podcast 305 office right here live. Okay.
Thank you, Simon. Well,
Okay.
cybersecurity is one of many fields in technology, I guess, no? In computer science, in risk management, information assurance. So basically, my role as director of innovation and technology in the city, and I started in 2004, mostly as a network engineer here in the city.
Long ago.
Yes, a long ago, and my background is from the industry. So I was an engineer. I was an electrical engineer in the telecommunications industry for over 10 years. I started my career as an engineer in 1993. My first
Wow.
jobs were with Siemens and NCR at that time, developing hardware and systems for urban networks. And I worked for 10 years. I worked with Bell South, Motorola, Lucent, Agilent, and other companies during the 90s and beginning of the 2000s. In
Raimundo, why technology in your life? Why what was that? What was the spark for the technology as a career for you?
Well, in the field of engineering and electrical engineering, so a lot of what you do has to do with technology, with developing, engineering, creating solutions. And technology is kind of like the result and also the field, that where you are applying your skills, and I did it in telecommunications and a
Right.
little bit in related areas like a little bit of computer science, but was more in electronics, electrical, and telecommunications the
Right.
first 10 years of my career. Now, when I joined the city in 2004, we started building the infrastructure for the city. The city didn't have an technology department until 2003. So the department was just created, and I
Mm-hmm.
joined the city when they were still creating a team and building the infrastructure and the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And
Great.
so that was pretty much my first job that was directly related to information technology, information and computer science related. But the job
Great.
I do in the city has to do with all the disciplines also that I learned throughout my training and my career. Here
Mm-hmm.
we build telecommunication networks, we engineer set infrastructure, we engineer systems, and cybersecurity at the core is risk management. So and
Right.
standardization of operations.
Uh,
Basically,
oh,
it has to do with protecting the information
yeah.
assets of the organization, of the customers. Our customers are the citizens in our community, but
Right.
also internal customers like employees and also organizations that do business with the city,
Yeah.
even the
Raimundo,
suppliers. Yeah.
Raimundo, and what are these the most significant right now this cybersecurity threat facing the organizations right now for in your thoughts?
Well, we are basically impacted by a threat landscape that is always evolving. You know, 30 years ago, we started seeing the resurgence, the appearance of the first AI-powered viruses. Believe it or not, in the early 90s, we started seeing software, malicious software being developed to attack those computer networks at that time using genetic algorithms and other AI type of technologies. So that's not
Mm-hmm.
new. That started 30 or more years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
then over the years, we have seen that as technology and innovation evolves in all the verticals and industries, the threat and malicious actors are evolving, sometimes actually faster than some industries. That's
Yeah.
why sometimes they are successful attacking and impacting organizations because those systems that they are developing, they are those risks, those threats, those malicious software and systems. Sometimes they are evolving faster than the detection capabilities of the organizations. So that's why we have to continuously innovate in all those fields and apply fields like deep learning and AI, advanced threat detection and cybersecurity, advanced cybersecurity systems in
Those
all of
are
the sectors because we
y-
know that the malicious actors, they are applying those new
yeah,
technologies as well. So
yeah.
today, just to answer your question really quick, ransomware, of course, is something that we hear a lot. We hear a lot about rootkit attacks and systems that are able to masquerade and use adversarial AI. So the kind of malicious AI that is able to not evade detection, to masquerade itself as part of the enterprise, and being able to morph and evolve quickly and do what they call lateral movement. Basically, attack a segment through phishing, for example, phishing attacks via email, compromise the enterprise at one entry point, but being able to masquerade themselves and act as if they were part of the enterprise. So trick in the sense of behavioral analysis and then do lateral movement. That means that they move to other production areas of the organization. They compromise data assets. They encrypt data assets. And then that's where the ransom comes and all those things. So that's a MO that is happening, that has been happening for many years. And phishing entry and risk issues related to employees, social engineering, when they are able to trick the employees to allow them to provide passwords or give access to accounts. So all those things are common attacks today, and those are things that we have to prevent and
Well,
protect our organizations against.
yeah, actually, 5 years ago in our company, we had a ransom attack. It was in Dropbox. The Dropbox, we had many assets there in Dropbox. Actually, the same company Dropbox had also, we recovered the files, but they were like asking for money and so for Bitcoin. So that, and also, Raimundo, what are those the key components of this robust cybersecurity framework, as you see, as a professional for in this field, the key components of that for a business, for a simple business, the medium size business,
Mhm.
not talking about the big companies.
I know. So regardless of the size or the kind of business of your organization, at the end we all need to protect our business core assets, information assets, and the integrity of the data that of our customers. Regardless what is your business, the size. It can be a mom and pop retail shop with 3 employees or 1 employee or 2 employees. It can be a SMB, kind of like a small medium business organization, or it can be a multinational corporation or a public sector or private sector organization. At the end, you have to uh, work holistically, protecting yourself, your organization, your reputation, and your of the organization and your customers. And there are 6 major areas, basically, that, like I said before, at the core, cybersecurity is risk management. A lot of things in cybersecurity are common sense, things that you have to do following common sense. And those 6 areas, they are risk management or assessment. Basically, you need to understand the risks associated with the threats in the market landscape where you are operating. It's different for a hospital than a school, the university, or a city, or a small business. Every business has their own market landscape with their own associated risks and threats and vulnerabilities, of course. So you need to understand your risk, and that means that you need to understand the risks in your internal organization. So the risks related to employees, employee behavior, and networks, systems. So those risks, you need to understand what are the potential attack surface. Basically, what are those areas that uh, bring vulnerabilities to your business? So if you are doing e-commerce, you need to understand the risk associated with e-commerce. If you're doing
Exactly.
in-person transactions, the risks associated with in-person transactions. So you need to understand your risk. And that's an analogy that I always say. Imagine you have a house with 20 windows and you secure 19 windows. Is that enough? So what happens with that window that you didn't secure? That's enough
Exactly.
for that to be broken in,
That's it.
broken in, and then you have malicious actors to get into your property. So it's kind of like the same. So it has to be holistic. So you have to protect all those points of entry. So, but to do that, you need to understand what are your assets, where are your assets. Sometimes organizations they grow and they have a large infrastructure and they don't even know what they have out there. What are all those different devices, systems uh, in the inside of the organization, outside of the organization? They don't even understand the risk associated with employee access that they may have in their different business units. So you need to understand your risk. So risk assessment is the first thing that you need to have, that you
Right.
need to do. And that
Exactly.
also has to do managing training of personnel, training of contractors, training of customers. The customers can be trained too with acceptable use policies and that. So that's part of having a comprehensive risk management process. So the second one is detection. So you need to be able to detect when your organization and your information assets are being attacked or compromised. If you don't detect it, and that's the big risk today, that those systems are very sophisticated and intelligent. So we are living in the era of AI versus AI. So business
Yeah.
AI versus adversarial AI. So that's why sometimes those issues are not detected. because they are very sophisticated. Or social engineering is very sophisticated. So you see those emails that they used to come before with a lot of misspelling and fishy things that you were able to easily um, detect because they were so blatant. They were so easy to detect those phishing scams. Today, no. Today is very difficult to detect them. Now you have Gen AI, generative AI, creating of malicious actors, creating those deceiving emails that are portraying to be a bank or portraying to be a customer or a supplier, and they are tricking the organization with social engineering. So detection is key. So advanced, today we are living in the era that you need to have AI-powered advanced detection in any capability. Even a small company, a small retail business, they can get a anti-malware solution that is coming already with those advanced detection
Yeah.
capabilities. Anybody can have it. Consumer markets, you can buy them. I'm not going to tell you because there are many providers, but there
Yeah.
are ones that have highest reputations and they already come with the ability to detect. Then protect. So once you know that you can detect those attacks, or at least do the best in the organization to be able to detect behavior, because today it's not like before that the antiviruses or anti-malware solutions, they knew the definitions or the signatures of the viruses. So it was easy to detect a particular virus, a Trojan or a rootkit, whatever. Today, they are more sophisticated than that. Basically, they disguise those attacks, disguise in a way that you need to look at behavior. Behavior is what is going to tell you really if a software is trying to do something that is not normal, that is an anomaly. Now, once you have those capabilities, then you need the next one, which is protection. So you need to have protective controls, firewalls, anti-malware, gateways, filters. You need to have all those different infrastructure and systems that is able to protect your organization against attacks. So protection is key. But first you need to have good detection as well. Then
Yeah.
the first one is technology management. It's the first major area. You need to manage your infrastructure. Because if you, for example, you are still using legacy equipment and old computers running old versions of operating systems that they have been already discontinued or they have not been properly patched
Exactly.
and with hot fixes and security updates. This is why it's very important when your OS provider, you call it Microsoft, Apple, Google, whoever it is that you're using, is telling you to do a security update to your device, to your cell phone, to your laptop, to your tablet, to your computer, is a good advice to, unless you are concerned about performance issues that can happen sometimes with bugs. But if it's security related, you should do it because that also helps you to protect your equipment and your organization against known vulnerabilities. So you have the known vulnerabilities that pretty much the organization they discover. When they discover a vulnerability, when they discover something that is being compromised, that is being attacked, that is being exploited, they call it exploits. Then right away they release a patch or they release a hot fix or a service pack. It's highly advised to test that to make sure that it doesn't break your operations. Test it on a sandbox or test it somewhere or wait until the market assures you that it's safe to do it. I'm not going to advise anybody to go and update your devices without making sure that that's not going to break your business. But at the same time, not updating your device if it's bringing an important high, they call it high severity fix for a known vulnerability, you better do it. You hear about those cases that hey, they came a new ransomware type of attack, and they have names and codes and numbers, and everybody in the business is releasing patches quickly. Microsoft and Apple and all the manufacturers, Cisco, etc. They are releasing those fixes quickly. Why? Because they know that if they don't do it, their customers are going to be attacked and compromised. So those are things
Exactly.
that you need to know. That's technology management. So you need to have
Exactly.
an enterprise that is properly maintained. Because if you don't maintain and upgrade your systems and keep them up to date with the market, with the industry, Not only you're gonna have a degraded performance because oh you have a low CPU or low RAM equipment, okay, that's something. Uh, oh, I have the old version of the OS. It doesn't have the new bells and whistles. Okay, that's cool to have. But let's talk about the core need, which is business continuity.
Also
Having
the experience and productivity. You as a manager, you gotta have like this balance on the experience and the productivity going forward with these measures that you're taking on cybersecurity, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, but I would say the number one priority, even though yes, productivity, customer experience, all that's the key driver. No? Business first, customer first. But the customer also can be impacted by by the organization running systems that are outdated, that can bring risks and cyber attacks. So at the end, it's a holistic concept, you know. So you need to make sure that your system is up to date, is at the par, or at least not too behind for the industry. But most importantly, it shouldn't be behind in critical high severity security updates. You don't want to have a system that hasn't been patched against a known vulnerability that is being exploited in the market. So that's why big part of cybersecurity, like I said, we started with risk management, risk assessment, and that
Exactly.
means also understanding what are the risks out there, and if there are new patches being released to address those known vulnerabilities, so you need to be aware of it. So that starts with risk management. So
Yeah.
technology management is the fourth area that I think is critical, or I think no, it's part of an industry framework.
Yeah.
Then you need to have a response management. Why? Because in different degrees, you need to respond to incidents. You work hard so you never have to respond to an attack that has been successful and being able to compromise your organization. But if it happens, you cannot improvise. So you need to have an incident response plan. Even if you're a small organization, what are you going to do if your computers are compromised or are attacked? So you need to have a protocol. So you need to know what to do. That means that, for example, okay, you need to mitigate the impact of the attack. So you need to do things like disconnect the computer, put it in quarantine the
Quarantine.
system, and you need to notify sometimes all the stakeholders in the organization that are going to work on the response. It can be the technology consultants if you don't have a team in house, or the technology managers. The risk manager needs to be notified. The CEO or the owner of the business needs to be notified. Everybody needs to be properly notified quickly. You need to mitigate the risk. You need to contain the damage. So you need to do damage control quickly. So
Right.
those things cannot be improvised. You need to write it down,
Yes.
regardless of how big or complex is your business or your company or your organization. So you need to have that incident response plan for a cyber attack. So what are you going to do? Do it quickly, do it properly, and then recovery. What are you going to do to recover? So that's part of the response plan. So how are you going to get back in business quickly? So you minimize the losses for you and for your customers. So all those things. So response is the fifth area that is very critical. Now the last one is compliance. So basically, regardless of your business or your area, so you always have compliance. We all have to abide to rules, regulations, standards, best practices of different kinds. And many of them have to do with protecting uh, security, privacy, data integrity, information assets, the privacy and the and the legal rights of your customers and your employees. So you need to know what are your compliance frameworks for any business. If you are a retail business, you have regulatory requirements from the state of Florida, for the Department of Business, regulations from the DVR, etc., from the county. So you have a business license basically to operate,
Yeah.
and then you have in your community of practice, you have legal frameworks. So you have to comply with PCI if you do e-commerce or if you use credit cards in your transaction, which everybody does today, accepts credit card in different ways. So PCI compliance. You need to comply with protecting the privacy and the data of your customers. Your customers are providing personal data like their names, their addresses, that's called PII, personal personal identifiable information, PII. Your information as a customer, as an employee, as a stakeholder, from your name, your contact information, telephone number, cell phone numbers, email addresses. You know, businesses sometimes they collect that kind of data. So you are responsible to protect that data so they not disclose it. So there are legal frameworks. There is the Stanley Oxley, and I am sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. So the SOX law. So that's something that applies to everybody. So everybody is responsible to comply with that law. And also, and if you do, like I said, any credit card transaction, then you have to comply with protecting the credit card environment, credit card data. That's PCI. That means payment card industry, and it's regulated by PCI DSS, by the SEC, by the Standard Council. So regardless of your business, you have to comply. So you need to have compliance management.
Yeah.
And if you manage personal records related to, for example, to healthcare, then you need to comply with HIPAA, and you need to comply with PHI, protected healthcare information. In the case of our city, we also have to protect those domains and also criminal justice data. So that's CJI. So we have multiple data domains. You need to understand what are your legal and compliance frameworks and obligations that you have to protect your data and your customers too. So those 6 areas, you cannot do 5 out of 6.
Yeah.
You need to do 6, regardless of the
Raimundo.
size of your business.
Yes, Raimundo. And talking about these emerging trends and technologies in connection with the cybersecurity. So what is your perspective on the role for the blockchain in enhancing the cybersecurity, the blockchain as a technology with as your experience?
There are many use cases in both sides, in the good side and the bad side too. So the bad actors are also leveraging crypto assets and digital assets and cryptocurrencies, also in ransomware and things like that. So it's like I said, so if the malicious actors are evolving in the way how they attack you, so you need to also evolve and become sophisticated in the way how you protect your organization. So blockchain has a lot of good use cases in cybersecurity. You can use blockchain to protect your supply chain. So you have supply chain that is protected or validated or verified with blockchains. So you know where things are coming, where are they checked in, what ports, what locations. Those different checkpoints are happening in a blockchain ledger, so you can validate things. You can validate documents. It goes from digital IDs, so you can have digital IDs that are validated by blockchain. In the case, for example, of credentials. For example, my industry licenses and certification credentials, many of them today, I maintain them in blockchain, and the blockchain that validates from the issuing organization of the certificate. So people can check exactly this is the blockchain ID of my certificate, so they know that it's real. And that can be with certificates, it can be with certifications, it can also be with security certificates for access. So a lot of time when you have a highly secure environment, you want to use a blockchain ledger certificate authority that will validate that your tokens or the tokenization of access is backed by a blockchain. So it's going to be very, very difficult, almost impossible, unless you have maybe like a quantum computer to duplicate that and to impersonate that kind of access. So it's done in access control. It's used in digital ID type of systems. It's done in the supply chain and has very powerful use cases. It can do also with identity management. And it can be done also with things like e-notarization of documents too, legal documents, legal assets can be notarized with blockchain and many other applications. So blockchain is a force for good, it's a force for evil too. So
Yeah,
blockchain is also exploited by malicious actors
for sure.
for cryptocurrency to make difficult for law enforcement to track their activities. So you need to
Raimundo.
be
Yeah.
you need to be knowledgeable about those those
Yeah,
different.
Raimundo. Sorry for this question. You answer if you want it. So do you own Bitcoin?
Everybody that I know
Mm,
owns some sort of asset. So yeah,
mhm.
I own a little bit of cryptocurrency. Yeah,
Okay, great. So yeah,
but that's on my personal risk.
nice. Raimundo, and then we are right now we are currently in a cloud base. All this many the I'm gonna say the majority of systems right now are cloud based. So in your perspective, the cloud based solutions are there it's really a risk for cybersecurity to have your your systems in-house or cloud-based. What do you think about those two capabilities right now? The cloud-based I think is the most, but what are your considerations between cloud-based and in-house?
So basically, most modern enterprises they have hybrid cloud or hybrid networks where you have on-prem capabilities and you have cloud-based capabilities and you use hosted services and systems. What is critical is that risk assessment. Let's go back to risk assessment. And because when you have a hosted systems, which is cloud is hosted system or software as a service like SaaS, or you are using cloud-based capacities from some of the major providers that everybody knows, like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, etc. So when you use any hosted solution in an organization, you need to still go through all those 6 areas. In your risk management part, you don't engage with any third-party organization if they don't give you the assurances that will comply with your regulatory frameworks and the protection of your data assets. So you still need to go with the 6 areas. You need to ask the cloud provider, okay, tell me about your risks. Tell me about your compliance. Let's go to the last one, compliance. You need to ask the cloud provider and the solution provider for things like a SOC 1 or 2, type 1, type 2 compliance certification from the industry. Those are industry certifications that make sure that the cloud provider goes through all the security standards, like the NIST Cybersecurity Framework from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. That's the number one standard for cybersecurity in the world. And so if those organizations, they are SOC 1 or 2, depending on the type of business and hosting service, and type 1, type 2, so there are different types and categories that apply to different hosting scenarios. So they have to produce the attestation of compliance. That is a key document that you always ask. Give me your attestation of compliance for SOC 1 or 2, type 1, type 2, for PCI. Are you doing any e-commerce or online payments or electronic payment transactions or credit card data related transactions throughout that platform to your customers? Because you are still liable for the service to your customers. It doesn't matter if you're using a third-party provider or if you're using a clearing house or if you're using a banking, a transaction management company. So you still have to respond to your customers. Your customers are doing business with your organization. So you need to make sure that all your service providers, they are also compliant. So you can guarantee that your customers are going to be protected. So in that case, those are the kind of things that you ask to your service providers. Give me your attestation of compliance for PCI, for HIPAA or PHI, depending on the kind of data. If there's any personal identifiable information related to healthcare records, or give me your SOC, like I said, your SOC 1 or 2, type 1 or 2, to make sure that you follow best practices and you adhere to industry standards. So all those things you have to ask them. It doesn't matter if you have on-prem. I see the server right next to my office. Is there in my data center, in my business? Okay, you still need to go through all those areas. Or I'm using a cloud provider, Microsoft 365 or Azure or AWS or a software or an ERP, anything that is cloud-based. You have to dot the I's and cross the T's with what to do with risk management, protection, detection, technology management, compliance, and also incident response plans. You still need to have it. Even it doesn't matter if they attack your organization or they are attacking your cloud provider. Whoever is being attacked, you need to respond. It doesn't matter. You still need to manage identity management. You still need to manage authentication, access, security. So all those things still apply. So regardless of the physical location of the services
or
and
the size or whatever. Yeah, Raimundo, talking about the ethical consideration, this is something like the role that those cybersecurity play in protecting the human rights or the civil liberties. We see sometimes that algorithms, some cases that algorithms like have some impact. So categorizing people or something like that. What do you think about that area to be affecting also the algorithms and cybersecurity to these rights on the civil liberties and human rights or between races and between all these kind of ethical considerations?
so today there is a discussion about those new sophisticated AI tools, like generative AI tools. Because we have been using AI, like I said, in the industry, I have been using AI for 30 years. AI is not something new, but AI with cloud computing and with high performance computing, like supercomputers now, and high processing CPU power, AI has become more capable and sophisticated with new algorithms that can generate things and can do a lot of things like on the positive side, it can help you to boost enterprise efficiencies, improve operations. It can help you to better serve your customers. On the bad side, AI, like any other technology tool, also can be abused or can be used also in an adversarial way, or it can be used in a way that doesn't follow ethical and legal frameworks. What I try to say is that the compliance frameworks are the same. So we still need to comply with all these frameworks that protect data privacy, that protects PII, all those legal frameworks that protect the rights of the customers. The SOX Act, it was enacted by Congress, by the U.S. Congress, to protect the rights of the individuals. ADA, the American with Disability Act, so you need to protect also digital accessibility. So all those legal frameworks, the law, the Constitution, everything, the Human Rights Bill, the Bill of Rights, all those things they don't change. They are the same. The technologies change, and sometimes innovation goes faster than legislation in many cases. No? So when new technologies come to the market, to the consumer market, like those AI tools, or not too long ago when social media came, and now Web3 and other technologies, a lot of things started happening that started to concern the regulatory entities and the society as a whole. Today, you mentioned things like, for example, hey, you have AI chatbots and tools that can be they can be biased tools, that they are pretty much infringing on the rights of people or doing things that are not supposed to be done. So, like for example, when you are querying data into an AI-powered tool like ChatGPT, you hear a lot of cases today, like, and ChatGPT is one of many. You have Google Gemini, Google Bard, you have Meta AI, you have Microsoft Copilot, and you have Amazon Alexa, and many. So you have a lot of tools in AI. today. And you hear concerns like that, like cases where questions are entered and the answers with the same prompt, you get different answers that are considered to be biased or infringing on the rights of people or being offensive. So all those kind of things. Remember, AI is a combination of algorithms, software engineering, data,
Machine learning. Yep.
mathematics. Yeah, but at the end, that's what AI is doing. So AI is using those mathematics and algorithms to for heuristics for continuous learning. So those tools are created by people, but remember, because they have the ability to do logical inference, and they have the ability to produce different outputs to different inputs in millions or trillions of combinations. They are very difficult to test. So the key today for any software provider that is delivering AI assisted or AI powered tools to the enterprise or to the consumer market, they have an obligation to properly design and test those tools so they can be developed in a responsible and ethical way. Now, that's easier said than done because, like I said, a corporation, a big corporation, a big tech, we're talking about Microsoft, Meta, Google, those big techs, Amazon, Apple, etc. So they are producing those tools. They have thousands of engineers, even prompt engineers that are testing and they are doing all the validation tests. And even though they do all those tests, they are missing something. They are missing the uncanny effect. They are missing that random effect. They are missing the stochastic models that can be associated with a complex tool. And the more sophisticated an AI is, the more difficult it is to properly test them. So that's why we implement things like guardrails, is that you have the ontology. Ontology basically is that mind mapping or knowledge mapping of the intentions of the customers and the outputs that are going to connect that are going to be connected from your knowledge assets, your knowledge base in the organization. So that ontology, is there are ways that you can control that. So if you're going to have a large language model that is open to the world and the internet, it's unpredictable. Anything can come from that LLM. So if you're going to connect, it's like having a link in your website that redirects to another website. Do you control that third-party website? No. It can be good today, tomorrow can be hacked, that kind of things. Those are risks too. So that's part of risk assessment. So if you're going to use those tools, risk assessment becomes very complex. It's more difficult than before with any other tool. Yeah. So the best way to do that is to minimize the attack surface and the risk surface. So if you're going to use a tool with LLMs or with sophisticated AI, so you need to have AI frameworks and policies. So we are, for example, in this vertical, which is kind of like government organizations, we are a member of the Government AI Coalition, or also known as GovAI. It's an organization that develops ethical frameworks, policies, best practices, and discussions to encourage and promote an ethical and responsive way of using AI for civic good. AI for civic good. So how do you do that? By getting all the minds together, basically people like myself. This was spearheaded by a city of San Jose in Silicon Valley. So they have a lot of experts throughout the country that are getting together and thinking how to create those policies. Some of our policies that we adopted from GovAI has to do with vetting vendors and providers. So basically, the same way how I mentioned before that you have to request attestation of compliance on PCI, etc. If you are doing business with an AI powered or AI focused service provider, you need to ask them for assurances that they are complying, for example, with the NIST AI framework. The same way how NIST has a cybersecurity framework, NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, also has an AI framework. and also for responsible and secure use of AI. So I would ask any vendor that is very sophisticated for AI, depending on what business I am, be, before I engage with them. Are you compliant with the NIST AI framework? Are you compliant with those policies from the Gov AI coalition that I'm going to provide because we already put them together? So those kind of things. So you need to do your due diligence, depending on what business you are. If you have for example, if you have a school, have you heard about those issues about students using generative AI to produce their essays or their homework?
Hmm.
We are having an
That's
ethical
right.
issue there too.
Yep.
So how are
Absolutely.
teachers and professors handling that risk of doing business in that vertical of education?
Mhm.
That depends on what vertical you are. You have your own risks and your own problems, I guess.
Perfect. So yeah, Raimundo. So we got some questions here from the audience. So it's in this side. I have okay. These questions is it's gonna be. I use a public computer. So a public computer to access my Google account. What are in this case my risks?
There are many risks because you can have in that public computer, you can have a keylogger malware that is logging everything you're typing in your keyboard. It can be getting your username, your email, your password, many different things. So if there's no way that you can avoid that, let's say that you have to do it. So
Right.
be very careful. So I would say check the the two-factor authentication,
Two
security
factor
control.
always.
So make sure that they are sending you, whatever you're using a token or you're using an SMS text message as a two-factor authentication. Which, by
Hmm.
the way, those things also can be hacked, but
Yeah.
there are different levels of multi-factor authentication that you can use. That can help you a little bit, but like I said, so you have the keylogger type of thing, or you can also have, even I can tell you something that happens a lot and people don't know is the eyes dropping. You can have somebody watching you from behind, even
Mm.
with a camera or something, watching what you are entering in the computer, because
Right.
it's a public computer. So there are many risks.
Yep.
I would say a public computer or a public Wi-Fi is not the best way of doing any kind of sensitive or secure business.
Banks
Do
and so
not
on.
do not
Avoid.
check your bank accounts using a public Wi-Fi or using something like a public computer at a library. Those kind of things. So avoid,
Right.
so minimize the risk. Use common sense. One of the
Yep.
most important tools for cybersecurity is common sense. If it doesn't make sense because you see, wow, this can be exploited, this is risky, so
Right.
uh, avoid doing it. So in public computer, maybe just do research or searches and stuff like that.
I have two ethical hackers here in the audience. It's the question is that the technology NFC. Apple released this technology. What how you see this technology evolving after this release from Apple? Is the question for Rafael Su, very good friend and ethical hacker on this side of NFC technology.
Well, I'm not kind of like an expert on specific product lines that Apple may be releasing, but if you talk to our CISO here, our Chief Information Security Officer, he most likely will be more knowledgeable about
Mm,
those latest things and products. But I can tell you from a managerial standpoint, you need to always be reading the risk releases, which I read, coming from organizations that are tracking those risks. And it cannot be the actual provider, so it cannot be the actual manufacturer. You have
yeah.
to listen, for example, from the CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency of the Department of Homeland Security. They release constant advisories to all business. That's a resource, by the way. Any individual, any business, those are free resources that I encourage everybody to use.
Right.
CISA, that's the Cybersecurity Agency of the United States. of the Department of Homeland Security. And they have top experts, which, by the way, we collaborate with them and we are in touch with those experts. Actually, I just came from a conference in Washington D.C., where I had the opportunity to attend some of the panels and round tables. Uh, that agency provides a lot of free resources for small and medium businesses, for individuals, and for large organizations like ours. So we read those reports. They come daily, and they tell you about risk. They tell you, for example, oh, Apple released this new this NFC, or Microsoft released this new product, or so and so. So you name it. All the entire mega vendors. So you need to constantly read those advisories, and they will tell you what they tested in their laboratories. Those are third-party labs. In the NIST third-party labs, they test those new products, and it can be a hardware too. Hey, this new appliance, even consumer market appliance, like those appliances that are coming now with IoT, they are connected. Even the refrigerators or the home appliances, they are risky points of entry now for malicious actors. They can even enter in corporations and private businesses, because businesses, they also have those smart appliances. And if they are connected, they are not properly secured. By the way, that's one of the MOs, how they have been able to compromise companies and organizations, entering by connected devices that are not supposed to be exposed to the internet without controls. They are supposed to be part of an industrial or mechanical network that is separate from production. But sometimes design flaws or engineering flaws bring those risks. So basically, even those appliances are certified in labs. So they are certified, they are attacked with penetration tests of different kinds by ethical hackers. And those ethical hackers, they try to break the system as if they were the hackers. So those agencies like NIST, DHS, and CISA, they have those labs and they produce those reports. Yeah. So most likely those new Microsoft products that you are mentioning, they are part of those reports. And if they are learned as being risky or vulnerable, so we will hear from them.
Last question here, because we are out of time right now, and having this really thank you so much for being here. So Raimundo, so this is the question for Gabriel Tocuyo here, another ethical hacker. So he is talking about the WorldCoin and how you consider this iris scan to be secure for the persons. There's another question here about the education programs in the city. There's education for the youth people, younger people, for about technology and cyber security. And the final question here, the NVIDIA case, is a teenager for 17 years. It was a hacker that hacked NVIDIA. What are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts in, there's many, but the closing SIM swapping. What are your thoughts on that, and how it's being
Okay,
controlled?
let me address the first thing. Talk about biometrics, like iris,
Yeah,
the
yeah, Iris.
biometric.
Iris.
That's one of the most sophisticated biometric tools. But you can have like fingerprints, you can have iris. There's biometric also that has to do with the way how you speak, voice recognition, the way how you move. So there are many different biometrics ways to it. So basically, if you are going to do multi-factor authentication, you can do it with something you know, something you have, or something you are. So that's the biometric part. Now, they said how secure it is. Well, multi-factor authentication can be a combination of any of those three things. So something you know can be a password. That's the traditional method. Now, the people had a username and a password. It's something you know. We know how risky that is. We know how easy with a keylogger or somebody dropping, or we know that's not enough today. So if that's the only thing you're using, that's not secure. Then two-factor authentication usually has a combination of that and something you have. Something you have can be your cell phone. It's very common, no?
Yep.
So you get a text message to your cell phone, or you have a token on your cell phone. tokenization or something that will give you the other part of the authentication, which is a key that you can enter, whatever. And sometimes those are randomly generated, so that's very sophisticated. And I use that in the industry. Those keys that were randomly generating those different serial numbers or tokens that you can use. Then and something you are. So if you have biometric too, that would be maybe the most secure type of scenario. You have the three types. So you have something maybe an initial key or an email or something. Something you have can be a physical device of any sort, can be a key or a cell phone, and something you are. So you will also have some sort of like a biometric. So that would be the ultimate security, I guess, that level in that case. Now, I'm not going to comment on particular manufacturers or cases because there are
Yeah.
thousands of manufacturers and use cases and products. Like you asked me about Apple, but there are thousands being created today. So I'm not
Right.
going to comment too much on that. But there was
Exactly.
another question. What was the other one?
The education programs in the
Uh-huh,
city
I wanted to
of
talk
Coral
about
Gables.
that. So that is
Mm.
that is important. If you uh, are a student here in South Florida or even in other education institutions in the United States, and it can be so we have high school students that do internships in our innovation and technology department in our lab. So we have a lab where we have the interns and they work on projects. So we have high school students, we have college students, for example, from Miami-Dade College. We get interns also from universities, FIU, UM, and also universities from other states if they want to have a resident student to do a research internship. It has to be in a relevant STEM area. So we are considering in my department. So there are other departments in the city and they can accept other kind of uh, curriculum. But in our case, it has to be STEM. So, and it can be engineering, computer science, statistics, mathematics, or policy related to technology and cybersecurity. We have had cybersecurity interns from cybersecurity programs. We had a cohort from the FIU, for example, the cybersecurity programs. We had like 15 students in cybersecurity, and they learned from my team. We gave them coaches. They learned from our CISO, Nelson Gonzalez, who is a reputable cybersecurity expert, and they learn from our network team, network managers. So we assign them projects. They can learn throughout the internship, and they develop some sort of it can be a research or they work on a specific project developing some technology. So
Right.
I encourage you to apply. Go to our Smart City Hub, coralgables.com/Smart City Hub. There you will see a citizen engagement tab. There you will have a link to our internship program and it will tell you how to apply. So you submit an application that goes to HR, that goes to IT, and we vet it. And if it meets the requirements, it is accepted as a volunteer slash intern throughout the summer or throughout the cohort. And we have a lab when they can apply their skills and they can learn and do projects, actual projects for the community. They can work on applications, on systems, on IoT, augmented reality, virtual reality, etc.
Yeah, and actually have those kids in learning things in the favor of communities and maybe separate those because in this question that we got here, the Nvidia case, I don't know if you know about this case for a 17 teenager hacker, so goes into Nvidia and the system, and it was a gamer, actually a gamer, and then they do this transition uh, eh, from gamer to big hacker. What are your thoughts, or do you know about this case?
Well, I can say so. That's a big waste. Somebody having so much talent and instead of using
Mm,
it to
big
advance
ways.
to
Yeah.
advance, humanity and doing it for good and develop a good career. So they use it for
Mm,
for, for bad
exactly.
reasons. So that
Or
that is a
bad.
waste. It's a waste of a of a good mind.
Talent.
Having a
Yeah,
good time.
for sure. And the last one is the SIM swapping, which is actually what we're talking about. The authentication, the second authentication it's gonna be tied to this risk, the SIM swapping. How do you think the big companies are handling with this risk, SIM swapping?
But those, you know, you're talking about, for example, the swing for the cell phones, you know,
The cell
the,
phone.
for
Yeah,
the
that's
bits.
right.
You know,
Hmm.
they changed from physical SIMs. Now they're using the V
The
SIMs
digital
or the
one.
E SIMs. Yeah, you know.
Mm.
So that's a case where blockchain could help,
Mm.
because
Right.
if they were able to tie that kind of the virtual device IDs or virtual SIMs from these devices to some sort of like a blockchain um, ledger where it could be validated and authenticated, it would be more difficult to be simulated or swapped, because then you control the chain the chain of custody of the
Right.
device and the ID. So those, this is the problem, with like I was saying. So innovation sometimes goes faster, the consumer market or the industry goes faster in developing and implementing these capabilities and putting them out to the market, to the consumer
Mm.
market, or to the industry. Then the risk managers and the controllers and the regulatory agencies to put together the controls that will make sure that those tools are not being exploited. So
Yeah.
that is why risk assessment and knowing the market, what's happening in the market, and constantly listening from agencies like CISA, because they have teams and laboratories in NIST dedicated only to understand those risks that you are talking about. What's
That's right.
happening now with vSIMs, what's happening now with those tools that are exploiting vulnerabilities in AI. So what is happening now with new attack surfaces that we didn't have before, that now we have them, like connected vehicles, for example, or like I was
Ex-
talking about smart homes or connected home appliances or
That's
devices
right.
out there that are collecting data from public areas. So those are new attack surfaces, and that's why we have agencies of experts and scientists. Actually, a lot of people with PhDs doing analysis and testing and vulnerability attacks. And sometimes they, by the way, sometimes they recruit former hackers. So we know the law enforcement agencies and the three-letter agencies, they also recruit those former hackers, those black hats. They bring them sometimes so they can become white hats and then work for good after they have paid their dues with justice. Because there
That's
are
right.
severe criminal offenses that they pay with jail time in some cases, or they recruit them and they work now for the agencies. But it is a constantly evolving, very dynamic threat landscape. That's how they refer to it, the threat landscape. So if you think 10% of what's happening, so maybe you're too
Think
optimistic.
twice. Think twice. Well, thank you very much, Raimundo Rodulfo, PEPMP, so Director of Innovation and Technology of the city in the city of Coral Gables. Thank you very much for being here at 305 office. So, thank you very much. Have a great day, okay?
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Simon.
All right.